Morning, everyone. This video is going to be about why the school systems are so screwed up, uh, especially in urban America, but also in rural America, in different parts of the country. Um, just to let you know, I was a school teacher for, I think it was 4 years, um, taught in the school district of Philadelphia in one of the worst schools, middle schools. Reason why I can say it was one of the worst middle schools is because when I was recruited, I went down to the story is basically I met somebody who was a school teacher. I was young. I think I was about 28 years old. He was like, "Yeah, I just started doing this and I'm working down here." And I said, "Oh, I'd be interested in doing that." And I said, "So how do you go about doing that?" I had a college degree, but I wasn't I didn't have an education degree. So he told me to go down, meet with somebody. They put you in a program where you go and you get your master's degree while you're teaching in the inner city. So when I went down there, you set up all the paperwork. You basically you go into like this. It's almost like an open house type area, and you meet with different people from different schools. Now the catch is what they do is they bring somebody who they know can kind of sway people to come to their school, sign up right on the dotted line for their school. Now I had visited a couple schools down there that were nightmare schools. I mean, stuff, I went to bad schools when I was a kid, but, these schools were just out of control. So when I met this guy, he was like, no, I said, I'm not looking for a nightmare school, blah, blah, blah. He said, no, 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 this school's, it's in a bad neighborhood. There's a lot of crime in the neighborhood, but good kids or whatever. He was totally full of crap. So I signed on the dotted line. I went down to this school. It was in one of the worst sections of North Philadelphia. Um, the I was there for 2 years, and I get so sick to my stomach when people talk about what's wrong with the school systems, what's wrong with urban America, what's wrong with this, what's wrong with that. I can tell you one thing that I know for sure, and everyone who works down there who has even a quarter of a brain will tell you the same thing because we used to discuss it. All the teachers would discuss it. The administration, of course, is full of crap, and they'll say whatever. But when you talk to teachers, who are real about the situation, you always get the same response. The parents are the problem. That's it. The parents. So you might say, oh, well, if they come to the school, how is it the parents' problem? Well, let me tell you what happens. So these kids, first of all, get to come to school. Maybe their clothes aren't washed. Maybe they haven't been fed. Maybe they have. Maybe their clothes are washed and they're fed and whatever. But the parents, um, the first parent teacher night that I was there, literally, we had two parents show up, and it was me and another co-teacher. Um, we were sitting there, um, and it was crickets, and he was saying, first of all, this guy was black. Not that that really matters, but he was saying that out in his school district, in the suburbs, you can't even get a parking spot when you go and go to the school system where his kids go. But here's the thing, this was a predominantly Puerto Rican school. Um, it had some blacks, it had some whites, but it was predominantly Puerto Rican. Why is that significant? Because well, one of the reasons is because when we hear about different like racism or all these different things, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's parenting. And if you can't get that through your head, then something's wrong. Now, I do understand, when you're in a poor area and a lot of these parents didn't speak English. A lot of the teachers spoke Spanish and the administration. So that really didn't matter. It's not like they couldn't come to the school. There was translators everywhere. You might say, well, maybe they had to work that night. Okay, 98% of the parents had to work that night. Okay, I'll give it to you. But even so, we would reach out to them. The administration would reach out to them, and if they couldn't come on parent teacher night, they were always welcome to come in and talk to us during the day during school. It's all bullshit excuses. I mean, you could go around and around and around, and what it comes down to is stop having so many kids that you can't take care of. And if you do have kids that you can't take care of, then stop. Do the best you can with the one or two that you have, and stop screwing around, screwing up your life. Um, I am a big advocate about single parenthood. I raised my son on my own as a single father. I consider myself 1%. I always say I'm part of the 1%. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the fact that not many fathers raise their kids on their own. I haven't met I haven't met any, but I know they're out there. But I always went to the school system and everything. Um, and then, I don't really hear a lot of backlash on that, but I can hear in my head the backlash that people would say to me, like, "Oh, well, you came from a good family." Well, you know, generational, yeah, you tend to, if your parents, were decent parents, then you saw what they did. But I didn't get along with my parents for the longest time. Number 2, they might say, "Well, you were educated." Well, I actually wasn't that bright in high school, didn't get that good of grades, but I did go to college and I did struggle through college. Didn't work as hard as I should have, but I did go through it. And even if I didn't, I had friends that never went to college that were in construction or something like that, making more money than I was at that time at 28 years old. Um, and I still struggled through, raising my kid on my own. Um, and it's not the money, it's the time that you put in with your kids. So let's just get that out of the way. I get it if you need to go out there and work. But when are we going to start saying enough is enough? Stop with, I have 5 kids, I have 3 kids, I need this, this, and this. Stop having the 5 kids in the first place. We have statistics on every single group, racial group, whatever, it may be, that the absences of parents in the homes, whether it be it's fathers. I mean, I can say that it's 99% of the time it's fathers that are absent in the home, and it keeps going up and up and up with all different race groups in this country. So when are we going to stop making excuses for these losers and start saying, first of all, women, stop dating and not even marrying or dating these losers, but the country is going in a direction where, oh, I want to do what I want to do. Well, you want to do what you want to do, then you suffer the consequences. So the school system, the bottom line is, you want to fix the school system. I went, I moved states not too long ago. I went and I wanted to substitute teach at different schools. Just so happens I picked a school that was near my house. I don't know anything about the school district where I live now. I mean, any of this, in the county. There's probably 100 schools in the county, and they just said, pick one. I said, well, pick the one closest to my house. Just so happens it was like, I forget what they call it, but one of these school districts where kids can come from all over the place, but they don't have buses. That's the one problem. So if somebody doesn't have a car, I get it. They can't go there. But this school, the parents had to sign off on the homework. If the kids screwed up in school, didn't do their homework, causing trouble, whatever it may be, they actually had a board, like a hearing, and the parents had to come in and they would decide whether the kid was still able to go there. I mean, it's a public school, but they treat it like a private school. And that's kind of the problem that I saw when I was a teacher years ago, is these kids run the schools. We don't want, we can't, there's no truant, we don't have, truancy laws, make the kids go to school, obviously, and the parents have to abide by those laws and so forth. But when the kids are there, they can just sit there and, if a lot of times at these bad schools, if they're not causing trouble, the teacher will just, say, thank God, because I can't teach the other kids. And that's the thing. When you have 25 kids and 8 kids are screwing around in the back and yelling, screaming, throwing books out the window. Another thing is, like, I hear, like, oh, they don't have supplies. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I was in the lowest economic, worst school, middle school, that was, one of the worst in Philadelphia. We got extra pay for being at the school. They had more supplies than I've ever seen. When I had friends of mine, teachers from like different parts of the country, I had a teacher from Germany, a teacher from Africa, I forget which country. A guy from Africa was picking up pencils and sending them back to his country. And he was saying, these kids just chuck pencils on the floor. And he said, I got 50 pencils that I'm sending back. This is not, I mean, it's like, oh, everything's so tough. Everybody's so poor. No, they're getting supplies. They're getting books. They're throwing them out the window. They're ripping them up. I've seen it, but they're getting them. Um, smoking weed in the bathrooms and everything. And look, we all did that crap too. So I don't want to, uh, throw it at these kids too hard because they are kids. But when you're not getting the discipline at home, and when you can't discipline the kids at school, meaning you can't tell them, look, you either do this or that's it. You can't do that because you can't, the administrations. What happens is the administration starts coming after you because the school district's coming after you because the national whatever is coming after the school districts and saying, why aren't you up here? It's a parental problem. It will never change. When I was in Philadelphia, they had a guy come from Chicago. What a liar! Um, they they were literally cheating on the students' test, the standardized test. Sat there and watched it. Teachers were told just to help them with the answers and so forth to up the grade so that this guy could get paid higher. I have to look up this guy's name because he's a total fraud. But the year that I was down there, probably 2003, I think so. Whoever was the superintendent of Philadelphia School District at that time, he didn't change the school district. I was there. I watched it. Not saying he told people to cheat on the test or I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I witnessed it. And I wished that, and all of a sudden the scores throughout the district um, just jumped. And then all of a sudden they jumped back down, a year or two later. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I watch some of these kids, no matter where they're from, when they have good parents. And there was actually some really good parents in this district that I was at. I mean, in this school that I was at. It was all in the Philadelphia district, but there were some great parents who really cared. Let me tell you, when you have, and I hate to say this, but most of the time it came down to religion. If they were like hardcore Christians, and they followed certain rules, they had their kids follow those rules, and their kids were not acting up as much. Um, you have some outcasts or whatever within the family or something like that sometimes, but most of the time the parents were just, lacking the disciplinary skills. And then what they would do is they would blame the teachers, the administration, the world, the country, whatever it may be. Um, I asked a couple kids, like, what are you doing after, you go into high school? I mean, look, I was 28. I used to joke around with the kids because I figured out I'm not going to lecture these kids. They don't care. They look at me, some guy, white guy from the suburbs. They didn't want to listen to me. Some of them did. Some of them didn't care. It's like, hey, you're a little bit older. You got a good job. Like, what can I do to get out of here and do something? But the vast majority, you know, you're just like joking and laughing about everything. And I'm asking them, some of them, what are you going to do after this? And they're like, I'm just going to the streets. I'm just going to sell dope. All this stuff. I mean, I used to hear all these things from these kids, and I felt sorry for them at the time. Now I felt sorry for them as kids, but the parents I don't feel sorry for because they have to be told what to do. They're like little children. As soon as there's a block party or something, they're there. You know, they're at the block party, but they can't come to the parent teacher conference and they can't make an appointment to come into the school. And look, I met tons of teachers down there. Those teachers would go down on a Saturday and meet them in a coffee shop if they had to. That's the way these teachers were. I give them all, and it's funny because they're the ones who get bashed the most are the teachers, and they're the ones who actually care. I'm not saying the administration doesn't care because they care too, but top down, it's about numbers and money, and these superintendents are probably making $280,000 a year right now. It's like they know they're not going to fix stuff. Half of them. Some of them care, but we have an epidemic in this country. It's called kids doing whatever they want and no discipline. And so that's the biggest problem that I see with the school systems. So that's what the video is about now. Please comment below, tell me what you think, and I'll see you at the next video.